Hi everyone, my name is Elaine, and today I'm going to be both summarizing and reviewing the 18th novel in Terry Pratchett's Discworld series, Maskerade, starting with the summary. Nanny realizes that they must find a replacement for Margaret so that the Lancre coven can be a proper coven of three again. Agnes Nitt arrives at Ankh-Morpork's opera house. She intends to audition. Nanny decides to recruit Agnes. Agnes, who now refers to herself as Perdita X, auditions. The selections committee is in awe of her range and hires Agnes as a member of the chorus. Agnes meets Christine, a thin, blonde girl who can't sing. Her father lent Mr. Selden Bucket, the opera house's new owner, money to help purchase the opera house in exchange for allowing his daughter to be part of the opera. Mrs. Nitt informs Nanny that Agnes went to Ankh-Morpork to pursue a singing career. Agnes's thoughts reveal that she had escaped Lancre because she was fed up with living in Lancre, and fed up with the witches, and above all, fed up with being Agnes Nitt. That's on pages 32 to 33. Granny discovers that Nanny has written a cookery book, The Joy of Snacks, and that her publisher, Mr. Goatburger, owes her roughly $4,000 or $5,000. Granny decides that they'll take a trip to Ankh-Morpork to collect Nanny's money and check on Agnes. Christine tells Agnes about the opera house ghost. The opera house attributes an accident in which Tommy Cripps, one of its scenery painters, was nearly killed after being tangled in ropes and covered in paint and turpentine to the ghost. Christine claims that her mirror is talking to her. Agnes swaps rooms with the frightened Christine. Agnes hears a male's voice coming from the mirror. It says, "Tomorrow you will sing the part of Iodine, but I will teach you how to sing it perfectly." That's on page 96. Mr. Bucket receives a letter from the opera ghost requesting that Christine sing Iodine's role in La Traviata during tonight's performance. Mr. Pounder, the opera house's rat catcher, is found dead. He had been hung. After much time spent in travel, Granny and Nanny finally arrive in Ankh-Morpork. Agnes is informed by the opera house's management that they would like her to sing Iodine's role in the upcoming performance, while Christine plays the role. Dr. Undershaft, the chorus master, is strangled to death. Mr. Bucket and Salzella, the musical director, discover that several instruments, mainly violins, have been destroyed. Granny and Nanny attend the opera. Granny senses fear, trickery, lies, deceit, and murder. Mrs. Plinge, a woman who completes odd jobs at the opera house, informs the witches that the opera ghost has changed, become murderous, whereas before he had simply wanted a place to watch the opera. Dr. Undershaft's corpse appears on stage in the middle of the show while the curtains are drawn between acts. After the body's cleaned up, the show goes on. The show ends without further incident, and the opera house shuts down for the night. Salzella informs Bucket that he spoke to the watch about what's going on. Vimes is going to send some of his men undercover. Granny and Nanny collect the money Nanny is owed for her book from her publisher. Agnes finds a secret passage behind the mirror in Christine's room. Agnes begins to follow the secret passage. Salzella and Mr. Bucket agree to sell Box 8, the box usually reserved for the opera ghost, to Granny for $2,000. However, they request that she enter the box with a man for protection. Agnes finds Walter, the opera house's general dog's body with Grebo, on a rat-catching mission in the cellars. Walter reluctantly informs her that he last saw the ghost in the ballet school's big room. After investigating, Agnes is convinced she knows who the ghost is. Agnes tells Andre, the opera house's pianist, that she suspects Walter is the ghost. Andre convinces her not to tell anyone else about her suspicions. Agnes slips up and tells Christine, who doesn't believe her. The ghost appears behind them. Christine faints. The ghost approaches with a sword. Agnes realizes he killed Mr. Pounder because he was poking around and found something. Agnes calls out to Walter, who appears. The ghost flees. Agnes realizes she must have been wrong about the ghost's identity. Granny and Nanny turn Grebo into a human so Granny will have a chaperone. The opera's next show begins. With a little investigative work, Nanny discovers that Walter is the ghost. The ghost steps into his box and is met with Granny and Grebo. When the ghost flees, Grebo pursues him. Salzella pulls the mask off the ghost. It's Walter. Several people go after him. The show ends. The chorus is informed of the news. Granny catches Walter on the roof. On Granny's order, Grebo disguises himself as the ghost and leads Walter's pursuers away. As Granny goes to check on Grebo, Nanny keeps an eye on Walter. Grebo is captured by his pursuers. He turns into a cat, confusing them. They assume the ghost had fallen into the ink and died. Detritus finds the ghost's mask, but Granny snatches it and flies away before he can make anything of it. Walter leads Nanny to the ghost's secret cave. It contains things like his unfinished operas. Agnes agrees to help Granny in exchange for being left alone afterward. Walter's words suggest the existence of another ghost, that he had been threatened into silence. He leads Nanny to the ghost's stash of gold and the place where he grows his special roses. Andre informs Granny and Agnes that he's an undercover policeman. The show stops. Granny speaks to Walter. She knows Salzella is the other evil ghost. Granny sends the Walter ghost off to save the show. During the silence caused by her exclamation, Agnes removes Salzella's mask. Salzella had been impersonating the male lead singer. Salzella threatens Agnes with a sword and admits he has done what he has done because he likes money and hates opera. The ghost appears on stage. The pair fight and Walter's mask is destroyed. Granny and Agnes present him with a new, invisible mask. The ghosts begin to fight again. After a long drawn-out speech in which he explains his theft of the opera house's money, his reasons for the murders, and his hatred for the opera, Salzella perishes for believing in the outcome of an operatic sword fight, in which he was never truly injured. Walter is named musical director in Salzella's place. The show is over. Death comes to collect Salzella. Granny and Nanny return to Lancre. Agnes makes her way to Lancre as well. Agnes joins the Lancre coven, replacing Margaret. And that's the end of the novel. Now, on to my book review. This book definitely wasn't one of my favorites. It was basically the Phantom of the Opera without the music, which is honestly the best part. I've never been a fan of the story, but I enjoy the music. With that being said, I enjoyed how Pratchett changed the story up a little. There was far less emphasis on both romance and the Phantom's romantic obsession with Christine in this novel, which I appreciated. Furthermore, there were two ghosts, Walter, who simply wanted to enjoy the opera and lend a helping hand by giving pointers and supporting the opera, and an evil ghost, Selzella, who stole from the opera and killed people who got too nosy or tried to blackmail him. I wasn't particularly fond of some of the new characters Pratchett introduced. A prime example would be Christine. She's a total and complete airhead. There's absolutely nothing going on upstairs, and her memory is terrible. It was honestly painful to read her brief excursions onto the page. I also felt as though the phrase, "but the show must go on," was horribly overused. However, I appreciated the fact that the novel was pretty light and fast-paced and easy to read, and that it was also of good length, not too short and not too long. So overall, I gave this book a 2.5 out of 5-star rating. What do you guys think of my review? Was I too harsh? Did I leave anything out? Did I miss an important point in my summary? Let me know down below in the comments. I always like to know what you guys think. And if you like what you saw here today, please smash that like button until it's blue. Subscribe, ring that bell so you'll know what's up, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye, guys!